All right, my friends. There was breaking news just now. Putin was waiting until like 1 in the morning to hold this big press conference, and then he did. Well, he delayed for like an hour before he actually showed up on Solovyov live. And here's what he had to say. Well, what he had to say, Greg Terry was texting me all this like in real time, and so he's traveling right now. He's been gracious enough to stop and like talk to us about what the breaking news is. And so, Greg, you take this away. Let's talk
Yeah,
about
well,
what he
thank you.
said.
Thank you, Prof. And for those on my channel, I told you we were expecting this speech from him tonight, or we were expecting the truce to be over. We did not know a speech would happen. And then midnight came and the truce is over. And we heard that Vladimir Putin would be giving a speech at midnight at the official ending of the truce there for the Victory Day celebration. He made everyone wait for 1 hour and a half, and I'm watching it, and Prof and I are talking. He did come out. He made about a 7-minute speech. There were no questions. And he basically said about 4 or 5 key things that we need to pay attention to. And Prof and I were talking about, okay, I can translate this, I can voice it over, all of this. I said, you really don't need to. He only
So,
said 4 or 5 things.
yeah, so in real time, he was sending me this, like,
Mhm.
here's what he's saying, play by play. And so I was thinking it was going to be one of two things. One, it's going to ramp up. Here's what we're going to do. Or he's going to give me egg on my face because I was just talking about there is no way that Putin is coming to a ceasefire. He can't come to a ceasefire. And here are the reasons why. And I just made an entire video about that earlier today. So tell us what he actually said in this
The,
video.
the first thing he said was he reminded the world that Moscow was the center of the world, and they validated that by having so many guests and the most important guest in the world come to the Victory Day celebration. And he was referring to Xi Jinping. He mentioned that every nation, every continent was represented and showed solidarity in celebrating victory over Nazism. And then that
So
was it.
when he says that, is he talking about Scott Ritter being representative from the U.S.?
Well,
Because I don't think there were U.S.
Steven Seagal,
dignitaries.
Steven Seagal. Yeah,
Steven Seagal and Scott Ritter were there.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
well, great. All right.
Okay, but after that, he then directly thanked the North Korean military for
Mhm.
valiant, heroic effort fighting in his war. Quote,
So he used the word war,
his war.
but he should go to jail for that.
Yeah.
Seriously, there are people that are in jail for saying war instead of special military operation. So, well, that's interesting. He was also hugging a North Korean general yesterday. That was
He
a
hugged
interesting
everybody.
thing.
One of
Yeah.
the greatest clips was over the Victory Day celebration when one of the African leaders came in and gave him big hugs and high fives. It was pretty entertaining. But the reality is, first statement, the greatness of the Victory Day celebration. Second statement was an identification and a recognition of the heroic and valiant efforts of the North Korean military fighting to liberate the Kursk region from the Ukrainian regime.
Because the mighty Russian bear couldn't do it by themselves, which is really interesting. It's weirdly admitting things when he's saying stuff like that. It's strange. Go ahead. What's
Well,
point
let's
number
move
two?
to, all right. So
Three.
we're about at the end of the speech now, to be quite honest. The last couple of minutes, this is what he said. He said, first of all, I want the world to know that the Kyiv regime broke the Easter truce,
No.
broke the
Oh,
Victory Day truce,
right.
broke every truce that we have tried. They have broken it every time historically, and specifically on this Victory Day truce, they broke it 538 different drone attacks, X amount of incursions at the border, all of these things. It is the Ukrainian regime that is out of control. They did not honor our ceasefire. And then he tagged onto that. He said at the same time, I want to congratulate those European leaders that did come to the Victory Day celebration because they were under immense pressure from the Ukrainian regime. They were being manipulated by the Ukrainian regime, but they still fought through all of that to get here. So he lumped
Yeah.
all that together.
So, ironically, the very last video I did was talking about the European unity, seeing Merz with Starmer, with Macron, with Tusk, and Zelensky. That was a powerful looking coalition. And if Europe has that kind of unity, I mean, I don't mean like with Schultz saying things and then appeasing. I mean real unity. That's going to be formidable. So he's
I,
kind of right from his perspective that they had to fight it up. They have to go upstream in order to go hang out with the dictator in Russia.
I was watching the Russian media the whole time, an hour and a half while waiting for this, and we were talking back and forth. And I was texting you. I said, "What's interesting right now is they're talking about that meeting that happened and the ultimatum given for the 12th ceasefire that Trump would just come along with and support." And that's what they were analyzing. And they were talking even before Putin came out and gave his speech. They said, Putin will never accept that. First of all, Russia does not accept ultimatums. We will never accept an ultimatum. And secondly, they say it's really funny. The European leaders go to Kyiv, they make this show, and they come out and give us an ultimatum, but we have not heard one word, not one syllable from Donald Trump in regard after the Kyiv meeting. And they were talking back and forth, well, why isn't that? And then they said, well, of course, Donald Trump is waiting to hear what the supreme leader is going to say and what his thoughts
Wow.
are. And then he will come out and make a statement that kind of plays both sides of the fence. And that's
So
exactly
okay, so
what they
let's
said.
just correct that thought there for a moment because Trump was informed by those four, like the four and Zelensky, they had a meeting where they were talking to Trump on the phone before they came out and made their announcements. But I guess the supreme leader now is Putin. Is that's
No. What they're saying is Trump hasn't made any statement publicly.
okay?
Publicly. He could have had a private talk with them, that's fine. But he's not the one coming out and saying publicly about the 12th. That was through third party talk. So they're saying, well, Trump's not going to say anything publicly until the supreme leader, Vladimir Vladimirovich, makes
Yeah,
his
that's what I'm saying.
statement
They're
tonight.
saying until Putin is the supreme leader. Wow,
Absolutely 100%.
that is something. Okay, so
Now, let's go to next step.
yeah.
Right before, 5 minutes before he came out to give his speech, Shaheeds were launched at Ukraine from one direction, two directions, three directions. And it kept coming more, more, and more. And that happened literally 5 minutes before he came out to speak.
So he's coming out to speak about how he's going to have a peace deal, a peace negotiation that's going to start on a different day, like skipping over the time that the Ukrainian, British, French, German came
American,
out
call it
with,
American.
and they said, okay, well, we'll start on Monday. We'll go for 30 days. And he's ignoring that one. And so tell us here.
Well, what he actually said was Moscow reserves the right in the future to extend a truce on a date of our choosing. But But he never even responded to the meeting in Kyiv, the 12th ultimatum, the sanctions that would be forthcoming, nothing. What he said was, here is what we will offer. We will offer to resume the negotiations between Russia and Ukraine that were broken off by the Ukrainian regime in 2022. Tomorrow, I will be calling President Erdogan of Turkey and see if he would agree that the 15th we could get together and start talking about the situation, because
Yeah.
ultimately at the end of the day, we have to fix the root cause of the problem.
Okay, so resume talks does not mean a ceasefire at all. It just means
No. The
talks.
war is ongoing.
And the
We
talks
can,
will be blamed on Kyiv for, they're just being obstinate. They're talking about they don't understand that's what's going to happen. But there's going to be no ceasefire. There'll be no ceasefire until Putin is over a barrel and has to do it, in which case he might do it as a temporary thing. But yeah, okay.
well, the Russian analysts that I was watching, the TV I was watching in Russia, there I was watching it. And then I was watching and reading the Ukrainian analysts that I follow. And actually, I texted you. I said they're both saying the same thing. And number one, because they know Putin and they know the Soviet Union and they know the KGB. First of all, Vladimir Putin will never accept an ultimatum from anybody on this planet. Never. That's not how you deal with the KGB. You don't give ultimatums. You negotiate to an end, but you do not give ultimatums, because he absolutely will reject that. That's why he didn't even mention it. He just ignored it completely and says,
So, right. Okay. So they're going to have they're going to reopen negotiations on their terms, their way,
they've
through
offered the
Turkey,
15th. Mhm.
somewhere next week.
Next Thursday is what has been offered. He will be calling Erdogan tomorrow.
Okay.
No response from, of course, from Ukraine. It's in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we'll see. But this is really, it was about 7 minutes long. He stood up. The reporters had said there will be no questions. He stood up. He said, thank you very much. He said, God bless you. He turned around and walked out of the room. That was it.
So, folks, what you're watching is the recap of Greg watched this real time, and then was was feeding it to me on my phone by text, and so we're just explaining it to you. So, Greg, you got to get back on the road. Thank you for
Yeah,
your
I am
time.
at the border of Missouri and Oklahoma. I'm going to finish out into Oklahoma City tonight.
All right.
And the reason why, and to all the mothers that are watching, happy Mother's Day tomorrow to all of you guys and all around the world. We thank you for mothers. Without mothers, we wouldn't be here. So I'm actually going to Oklahoma City, and we're going to be with my brother and I. It's just two of us. We're going to celebrate Mother's Day with our mother together for the first time in about 20 years. So
Wow.
cool.
All right, man.
Yeah, man. Be
Happy
blessed.
Mother's to you and a day to you and your
Thank
mom
you.
and all the mothers in the audience. And thank you for taking this time out of your busy schedule while you're on the road in order to bring us this
Well, we
breaking
needed to
update.
get it out right now because I
We'll
want
do
people
that.
to we want people to know the truth. And this
Yep.
is exactly what he said, and that's all that he said.
All right. Thanks,
All right,
man.
man. Thank you.
See you.